In this video, I'm going to rank a bunch of paper airplanes that I have designed, and I'm going to put them on a tier list, which should be fun because you'll get to learn about my design philosophy as I talk about why I love some of my paper airplanes and why I don't love some of them quite as much. So with that said, let's get into the video. Thank you so much to all of my patrons who are supporting this channel and making these videos possible. I'm now releasing a new tier where you can become the pilot of your favorite foldable flight paper airplane, and your name will appear next to the paper airplane you choose in each of my YouTube videos. Not only that, but each month you remain a patron, you'll rank up, and if you become a general of the foldable fleet, you'll win a one-on-one Zoom session with me. So head over to patreon.com/foldableflight and join the foldable fleet today. Now, as you can see, I've already ranked a bunch of my paper airplanes in a previous episode, so if you want to hear the rationale behind these placements, you can go ahead and watch that video, but you don't really need that context in order to enjoy this video where we're going to be ranking a bunch of other paper airplanes. And I do want to point out, the Classic Dart and Suzanne are not planes that I designed. Those are just there as points of reference. Suzanne for what is an excellent paper airplane, and the Classic Dart as an example of what is a very bad paper airplane. Now we're going to start here by putting some planes in D tier, and the first plane I want to add is Cywing. Cywing is a really cool looking paper airplane, I think, but it is very complex and just doesn't fly well enough. And the only other plane that I'm going to put in there today is A9 Eagle, which again kind of has the same issue. It's just a little bit more complex than it should be relative to its appearance and performance. Now, as we get to C tier, the first thing I want to do is actually grab Marauder and throw it up into B tier. As I was reviewing flight footage for the last tier list video, I was reminded of how good Marauder is, and I definitely underrated it in that video. So we'll throw it on up there. But we do have some planes to add to C tier, and I think one that would be fairly placed there is Spartan. It's a little bit harder to fold than Marauder and doesn't fly quite as well as Marauder does. And so for that reason, Spartan's going to be a C tier paper airplane. And this is going to be a little bit nitpicky, this next one. I think it would be fair to rank this next one even as high as A tier. But I'm going to put Wide Glider in C tier because I have a specific thing that I don't like about it. The layers get really, really thick and kind of wrinkle in a way that I just don't love. But it flies exceptionally well and it's really easy to fold. So if you're looking for a good beginner plane, honestly, you could throw Wide Glider up into A tier. But for this video, it's going in C tier. Now, Scorcher is another plane I'd put in here, not because it's bad. It's actually a plane that would fly over 100 feet. But again, it's pretty complex. I don't think it looks that cool, and it's just not amongst my favorites. Then the last one I'm going to put in C tier is Insurgent. And it does kind of hurt me to put Insurgent in here because I worked really hard on this plane, and I think it is very cool, but this plane is so hard to fold, and it's not cooler than a lot of the other paper airplanes on my channel. So again, when you're having to nitpick, those are my reasons for putting Insurgent in C tier. As we move up to B tier, there's actually a plane I want to move out of B tier also, and that is Firestrike. As I was editing the last video, I realized how well Firestrike flies, and just the fact that I really do think it's not a high A tier plane, but it is just into that low region of A tier. And now that we've made a little bit more space, we're ready to actually add some planes to this B tier. And the first one I'm going to add is another one from my book. This is Nakamura Jet, which I think is actually a great plane. But again, it's got that complexity issue. This plane doesn't look special at all. If you're looking for a great performance paper airplane, there aren't a ton of planes that I would put in front of Nakamura Jet. But in terms of general appeal, I think it's an average paper airplane. I'm also going to throw up Ranseur in here. This plane's got a really cool shape to it. It's pretty easy to fold. And for those reasons, I just think it's a great paper airplane that, you could even argue is higher than B tier, but I think B tier is fair enough. I'm going to throw also C6 Mantis in here, which I think might surprise some of you because this is a really good performance plane, but it is very fiddly. It's difficult to tune properly, and I understand that a lot of people end up not having a great experience with it as a result of that. Onslaught is another paper airplane that I think could be fairly placed in B tier. I think it's right in this mix. You can see we've kind of got this grouping of 4 planes now that all look relatively simple in terms of their shape. They're all a little bit harder to fold than the easiest paper airplanes I've published, but they're really good performance paper airplanes, and Onslaught fits right into that group. I'm also going to throw Stratus up pretty much right in that same group as well. though it is harder to fold than the others, and probably doesn't perform quite as well either. But Stratus is just a really fun paper airplane to fold that has some kind of unique visual characteristics as well as a unique folding sequence, but isn't amongst, my very best paper airplanes. B tier. And let's go ahead and grab Dagger, which on its own merit, you could argue is higher than this. But the thing about Dagger is it's actually really similar to a lot of other paper airplanes you could find on YouTube. There are a lot of planes that start off really narrow, have really wide wings that flare out, and Dagger is just kind of one in that long lineage of paper airplanes. So for that reason, I'm kind of lukewarm on it. One that I'll put in high B tier, but still in B tier, is Stinger, which I have a whole kind of series of paper airplanes that have these two prongs at the front of them. And Stingers are the most understated. The plane flies really well, and I think it does look cool, but the prongs aren't nearly as dramatic as they are for Spectre or for Sentry or for Lancer. And for that reason, I think Stinger doesn't look quite as cool. Now we're ready to move on to A tier, and the first thing I have to do is actually kind of clear this out, because I really think that a lot of these planes are low S tier paper airplanes. I was trying to create differentiation between those 5 that I put in S tier and this next group, because I do think these 5 are slightly stronger, but there can be discrepancy even within a single tier. And these planes are too good just to put in A tier. So now we have, as you can see, a lot of space to put planes in A tier, and we're going to need to start filling that up. So the first one I'll put in is Bayonet, which is another plane from my book. As I've mentioned, I think the planes in my book on average are very strong. Bayonet's just another one of those. This has a really cool kind of shape to it, that very sharp point that just adds some real drama to the paper airplane. And while we're kind of talking about that, I might as well go ahead and grab the other plane in my collection that features a similar characteristic, and that's Pegasus. Pegasus is super cool. It's just taking the idea present in Bayonet to the absolute max, and it looks kind of ridiculous as a result. I think it's very cool, but also kind of absurd. I like Bayonet better. You might like Pegasus better, but I think they're both A-tier paper airplanes. Now, this one kind of shares characteristics with a plane that's in B tier. This is X-Fighter, which is a really, really cool paper airplane with 4 wings, just like Falcon X has 4 wings. And the main thing that makes X-Fighter an A-tier plane, whereas Falcon X is a B-tier plane, is X-Fighter is really a pretty good performance paper airplane. It flies like 70 feet. It's a great plane, given that it's primarily designed to be aesthetically pleasing. Now, we're also going to grab another boomerang plane. This is Circuit Racer, which I'm not going to put up in S tier with Zoomerang. I do think between my boomerang planes, Zoomerang is the better one because it's a lot more consistent than Circuit Racer. Circuit Racer actually, when you throw it perfectly and you have it dialed in perfectly, makes these really wide circles that are just so cool, but it is just so much harder to tune properly. And I know a lot of people don't have a great experience with Circuit Racer just because of that detail. I'm also going to grab 2 more planes that are actually really similar. So I'm going to grab Nighthawk. Nighthawk is an excellent paper airplane in terms of distance. It's just a pure performance model. Maybe the best distance plane that I've published publicly on my channel. And so if at the end of this video you're like, I want to fold a plane that flies far, Nighthawk is a great plane to throw. Now, the one that's just like it is Skypiercer. So Skypiercer I actually designed before Nighthawk, but Nighthawk is kind of following a very similar formula to Skypiercer, and because of that, they're like pretty much equally good. They are both easily A-tier paper airplanes. Absolutely awesome. Now, we're going to move on from A-tier, which we've done some work to fill back up. So, the first plane I'm going to grab is one of those icons of the channel. I think as much as any plane on this channel, Alanis is kind of synonymous with my brand. It is so slow and flies so gently. You can't throw it hard, so it's not like an exceptional airtime paper airplane. But if you just want to like push something and watch it slowly fly across a room, there is no more satisfying paper airplane than Alanis. It's an easy S tier inclusion for me. Next, I'm going to grab Lancer, which is another one of those pronged paper airplanes, which I just absolutely love. Now, you could order Lancer, Sentry, Spectre, however you prefer. I think that Lancer for me is just a little bit ahead of Sentry. It's got this very, very aggressive shape, and it flies really, really far. Now, granted, it is very, very hard to fold, so it all depends on what you value for a given paper airplane, but Lancer is amongst my favorites for sure. I'm also going to grab A3 Afterburner, which has this amazing engine feature on the back of it, and the origami that's used to create that is just amazing. I'm really, really happy with the solution I came up with, and it locks together in a three-dimensional shape through the same origami that creates that circular engine in the back of it. I really, really love A3 Afterburner, and you can see that it flies well too. Okay, now we've reached the point in the video where we ask the question, is there an S+ tier paper airplane amongst this crowd? And so take a second, look at this list of paper airplanes and decide for yourself, is there a plane that you would put up in S+ tier? And for me, there is a plane, and that plane is Aurora. Now, if you don't know, Aurora is the plane I used to compete in the Red Bull Paper Wings airtime category. I qualified for the national finals using it, and I posted what was for a time the world-leading score in the airtime category using this plane. It flies over 15 seconds with the best throws. It is truly exceptional. So for that reason, I'm putting Aurora in S+ tier just based on its performance alone. It was always designed to be just an absolute beast in terms of performance, and I'm pleased to say that it is my best airtime paper airplane. Let me know in the comments how you feel about the way I ranked my paper airplanes in this video, and let me know what you would do with the paper airplanes that I have yet to rank. There's a link in the description to a tier list template, so if you want to make your own foldable flight tier list, you are certainly welcome to do that as well. And thank you so much for watching this video. As always, I will see you next time.